welcome to Word in the Burg, a new monthly topical show here on Channel 20, in which we're going to address the issues that most matter to the city of Harrisburg and the surrounding community. We'd like this show to be two things. We'd like it to be solution-focused, which is why, over the course of today's show and future shows, we're going to speak with residents, community leaders, and experts in their fields about how we can address some of the city's most pressing problems. We'd also like this show to be responsive to you, the viewer. So if you have suggestions for topics of future shows, please email them to us. You can email them to us at wordintheburg@cityofhbg.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Today we are joined by two such community leaders and experts. We have Tina Nixon, who is the CEO of the YWCA for the Greater Harrisburg region, and we have Marianne Havlicek, who is a Prevention Education Program Manager at the Y. Good to have you both join us.
Thank you for having us.
As many of you already may know, the month of April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And I think any conversation about this important topic really ought to begin with a discussion of what exactly is sexual assault. So let me offer that question to you, Tina, as a way of beginning.
Well, sexual assault has a broad definition. Sexual assault can mean human trafficking, rape, incest, voyeurism. Sexual assault is when someone forces sex upon someone else, that it's not their consent. This could be done to the children, the elderly, and everyone in between.
It's a very important topic that we have a very serious conversation about. The statistics which your office provided to ours are really startling. 1 in 4 women will be raped over the course of their lifetime. Marianne, can you talk a little bit about the impact of sexual assault, not just in Harrisburg, but nationwide?
The impact of sexual assault is just horrific. If you have a child, we use the terms 1 in 4 girls, 1 in 6 boys. Unfortunately, it's also 1 in 5 women and 1 in 71 men. The impact is not just from the victim, but their families. Their work can be affected. We work with both young people and adults on safety planning. Sometimes fear never goes away. The impact of a sexual assault forensic exam or a sexual assault nurse examiner doing an exam, going to the police, going to court. The impact just has far-reaching effects for the victim and their families.
So true. So can you tell us a little bit more about what the YWCA in particular is doing right here in Harrisburg, not only to raise awareness for this month in particular, but just on a year-round basis to address the issue of sexual assault and sexual violence?
Well, the YWCA has several initiatives that we do in the community. One being the Mayor's Task Force Against Sexual Violence, something that we're very involved in and hoping to engage other community members in, and just getting out there and educating individuals about the impact of sexual assault and really talking about primary prevention and how we can prevent sexual assault in our community and getting the conversation going. We also provide services to victims and families of sexual assault. We do that through our counseling services. We do that through our advocacy services and supporting victims wherever they may need support. If it's at the hospital, if it's going through the court system, we are there to provide those services for the victims and their families. As Marianne said, families are very traumatized and impacted by a sexual assault incident. So it's crucial that the services that we provide are there immediately and people know that they're there so that they can access the services as soon as possible when an incident takes place.
Marianne, can you highlight some of the specific things which our viewers should know? For instance, I know there is a helpline.
Mm-hmm. We man a 24-hour crisis line at the YWCA, 365 days a week, 24/7. That number is 1-800-654-1211. I provide, and everyone at the YWCA, prevention education in Harrisburg City Schools, Harrisburg University, many community groups, all the faith-based organizations. And our new focus is on primary prevention. We know that prevention education programs help to get the word out and awareness, but we also know that there are many people in our audience that we instruct that have already been sexually assaulted. Primary prevention takes the word to the street, takes it to the communities, takes it to the neighborhoods. We want to empower people to not to get involved, but to help in the communities to create and foster equality, respect, and safety. And that's what primary prevention does.
Thank you. When I think about the issue of sexual assault, as a parent, I think about the conversations that I need to have with my children. And whenever you're discussing this topic, it can sometimes be very difficult. Do you have advice for parents? And maybe Tina.
I would say it's a conversation that you have often. And we have resources that are age specific. So we would be able to, provide you with some talking points depending on the age of your child. I'm a true believer. It's not a conversation you only have once. It's one that you have over and over again until your children get to the point where they say, and my children are like, Mom, we know. And they will be able to repeat back to you what they know because you've had these conversations over and over again. And I think also being able to point out to children when things do happen, because children are very visual and they need to see things, and pointing out to them, and maybe using examples of how could you have gone about things differently if you see a situation on television, or you see, a lot of times the news will show, well, two kids walking down a street and there's a van, passing by. What would you do? Kind of role play with them different scenarios to get them to thinking when they're not with you of what they would do in certain situations that could be possibly dangerous to them. So I think, ongoing conversations, age-appropriate conversations, and just having it, as many times as you possibly can, whenever they leave the house.
Mm-hmm. And Mary Ann, can we talk a little bit more about what is an age-appropriate conversation? My children, span the gamut from 5 to preteen, and I wonder what different children should know at different points in time. And I know that information is available, but we can use this platform to try and educate our viewers.
Sure. For young children, we start about the age of 3. So from 3 to about 8, what we want children to know is where the private parts of their bodies are. It's very easy. Bathing suits cover the private parts of the body. And we encourage children to go home and talk to their mom and dads about what we talk about. We have a new campaign that is focused on believing children. Believe me when I tell. Children do not lie to get into trouble. They lie to get out of trouble in these situations. If they recant a story, possibly an adult doesn't believe them. It's really important, all age levels, from 3 to 5 to 8 to preteen, when you're talking about healthy sexuality, healthy relationships, and what can happen when something does not feel good to a child, and make sure that child talks to the parent. Keep that communication open.
I think another important thing is healthy relationships and role modeling what those healthy relationships are, especially for our teens and our young adults, and making sure you are having those conversations with them about healthy relationships, and making sure that young women and young men understand the barriers and what they need to do when in certain situations. A lot of things play into sexual violence and sexual assault. And I think we need to be able to provide our young adults with the tools that they need so they will not get themselves in certain situations that could be dangerous.
Mm-hmm. And part of it is empowering individuals to speak out when they see things, or when they can we talk a little bit about how you're helping with the empowerment side of things?
The empowerment piece is very critical. I think to be empowered, you need to have the knowledge and understand where the resources are. So when we talk about primary prevention, our goal is to provide communities, churches with information so that they are empowered to talk about it amongst their circles of influence so that they understand where to go if something happens, who to talk to, and how to get the individual services. I think education is key in what we're doing, and understanding the dynamics and what a victim may go through is very important. So I think that education piece, it goes along with the empowerment piece, and really not hiding behind closed doors when something like this happens. We know that sexual assault is one of the most underreported crimes. And I think it's our responsibility as a community to begin talking about it and educating those in our community about the impact it has on individuals and the community as a whole.
Mm-hmm. And if I were a church leader or a member of a congregation and I wanted to access this information or find out more or bring a speaker to one of my programs, how would I go about doing that, Marianne?
Almost all of our topics and our discussion points are on our website. Call the YWCA, the hotline 1-800-654-1211. The call will automatically come to our floor, ask for someone in prevention education, myself or the other educators. We do a lot of community programs. And part of that, when you said about a faith-based leader, what we're trying to do also is have bystander empowerment. When Tina talked about that, we want to give people the skills to end sexual violence. Awareness and education are key, but we want to provide them with the skills so that it doesn't happen, and if it does, what to do, where to go, and how to make it a better place in Harrisburg for safety and equality.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about educating and empowering individuals, it's also about working to educate our first responders.
Mm-hmm.
And I know one of the things that we've talked about as a part of the Mayor's Task Force has been how we can provide additional training to our first responders. Tina, can you talk a little bit about what is available out there and what you'd like to see for the future?
There are many trainings available to our police force that we provided in the past and are willing to provide again. Basic things of when you encounter a victim and how to go about interacting, and how to go about providing the resources that they need, and having an advocate right there with you when an incident takes place. I would like to see, back I think about 10-15 years ago, we had a program where we did have advocates right along with police when when incidents of sexual violence happen. So the advocate was right there. Like to see those partnerships build up again. Like to make sure that the new police officers that are coming into our community understand our community and understand the impact of what happens to a victim who's been sexually assaulted. So we're willing and open to provide those trainings. And as we move forward with the goals of the task force, I hope that's something that we'll be engaging the police officers as well as churches and other community organizations in.
Yes, and the city's very supportive of that endeavor. We've already had the conversation with the police department, and I think that's growing out of the task force, which we recently revived. One of the things we talked about for the task force was specifically how we could raise awareness, especially during this month of April, all year round, of course. But the Y is doing some pretty impressive things, some of which have already occurred this month, some of which will be occurring in the future weeks of this month. Can we talk a little bit about what you're doing to raise awareness here in April?
Sure, yes. We have a lot of events, and we do it for the community, so just to bring awareness. This Friday, second game, I think, of the Senators' opening season, we will be there with a table, have some literature and some information. At Hershey Medical Center, all the lights on the medical center were teal to bring awareness. We will be doing a legislative breakfast tomorrow morning. We have an Isaac's Affair Thursday where some of the proceeds will come back to the Y, but more importantly, getting the information out and awareness. This past Saturday we had a wonderful event with Diacon that brought awareness to victims of sexual assault and how to prevent that from happening again, and how to really get the community on board with some safety tips, what sexual assault, sadly to say, is all about, how to prevent it, how to help somebody in that situation.
I think that's terrific. Tell us a little bit about Denim Day coming up on April 24th.
Right. Denim Day we're hoping will be a wonderful awareness event. Denim Day came about because a young girl many years ago was raped, and the rapist was convicted, but the judge overturned it because her jeans, her denim jeans, were so tight, they felt that she needed help. She would have had to help the rapist perform the rape. So it's a wonderful campaign that we really want people to get involved in and support. So Denim Day it will be April 24th, and we understand Dauphin County, City of Harrisburg, many of our partnering agencies are going to allow their employees to wear denim, possibly a donation back to the Y or to their own agency, or just awareness of Denim Days.
Well, we'll be participating in the mayor's office, and we encourage everyone to participate. Tina, do you have any final thoughts really specifically on what the public might also need to know regarding sexual assault and sexual violence?
I think it's important that the community knows that we need to change some of the norms and change our behavior. And I say that some of the things that we watch on television, the way we behave in front of our children, I think some of those things that we need to be aware of, because a lot of times the violence perpetuates violence in our community. So I think as adults, we need to be responsible, and we need to engage in these conversations amongst ourselves, but also I think we need to be role models of how we should behave, and so that children understand the appropriate way to interact with one another. I always say children do what they see. And if they see violence and they see inappropriate interaction between adults, that's what they're going to do. So we need to be, cognizant of our own behavior and be willing to educate ourselves on this very, very important issue.
I think that's excellent advice. And Mary Ann, do you have any final thoughts that we haven't discussed yet on this particular issue?
I think I just would like to reiterate that children will tell parents, will tell their caregivers, will tell grandparents if something inappropriate has happened to them. They just need that avenue. They need to know that what they say is going to be said in a safe place and that they will be believed. And I also agree with Tina that, to end violence, to be a positive role model, it would be just a wonderful thing.
Well, while we have you both, I'd like to talk just a little bit more about some of the other programs that the Y offers. Specifically, the Y has been very instrumental in this conversation on race in Harrisburg. And a lot of different folks have participated. I think it's generated a wonderful dialogue. Tina, can you talk a little bit about how that came into being and the conversations that have ensued?
Oh, sure. Part of our mission, eliminating racism, is very important and to the core of what we do. And through our Racial Justice Committee, it came about that we wanted to have a conversation with individuals that are not always at the table. So we looked for leaders in the community to come together to have an 8-week program, 8 to 10-week program, and it's a let's talk, a conversation about race. And this was a facilitated conversation, and we were very pleased that many of the community leaders came together for that time to discuss not just racism, but the other isms that take place, and also those who've been disenfranchised, and really taking a look at it in a different way. And I did not participate, and I did not participate on purpose because I had already participated in 2 study circles, but the participants, the feedback that I got, it was just so heartwarming. It's open up new doors and a new perspective on individuals that participated in that group. And we were very fortunate that we had some very strong leaders in the community that will be able to take what they learned there and continue the conversation. The YWCA is very committed to having these conversations throughout the community, and in a facilitated, structure. There is a curriculum. And I think it's important that we do this because we know that people are discriminated against, and we know that bad things do happen to individuals of color just because of their color. You know, the Trayvon Martin and the other case with the young man playing his music too loud. So we need to be a responsible community and come together and really talk about these things so that incidents like that won't happen here in Harrisburg.
I can tell you that I know the conversations were impactful. Carl Singleton in our office would come back on a regular basis and say, guess what we talked about this week? Or can you believe that this was the conversation? And I think much with the issue of sexual assault and sexual violence, a large part of what we need to do is encourage people to have the conversation about difficult topics.
Right.
And that clearly happened, but it happened in a very supportive way. And I think that's really where the Y has been able to excel. And Marianne, can we also, and I know that domestic violence is not at all the same thing as sexual assault, but can we talk about domestic violence and some of the programs that the Y offers?
Sure. Domestic violence really is closely, unfortunately, related to sexual violence. It's about power and control. At the YWCA, we provide shelter to women and children for up to 30 days if it's a crisis situation, and to keep them safe. We have transitional housing in a rural community for women and their children fleeing because of domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking. We provide support groups. We have individual counseling. We do prevention education. We do all the accompaniments to the hospital and to the police. We go with victims to night court. We help victims apply and fill out for emergency protections from abuse. So all those things impact victims of domestic violence, both men and women, and we provide all those services.
I think it's important to highlight that as well. Are there any other programs at the Y that you'd like to take this opportunity to tell the public about?
Well, I'd just like to mention our Race Against Racism, which is coming up on April 26th, Saturday. So we're looking forward to the community coming out to participate in that. And also, I'd like to give you a little gift. This is our No More pin, and this is No More Domestic Violence, Sexual Assault. And it's a campaign that's being done in collaboration with Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape. So we'd like you to have that and say thank you for your continued support of the issues that are important to us, and hopefully that we will be able to continue to engage with what's going on as far as your agenda and what we're doing at the YWCA. Our goal is to make the community a safer and happy place for everyone to live. So,
and thank you. I'll wear the pin with pride. As a final question, can you tell the public a little bit about some of the folks that are taking part in our task force?
We have a variety of individuals on the Sexual Violence Task Force. We have some ministers, we have a psychologist, teachers, counselors, a police officer, a few community members that just want to become engaged and learn more. Not only are they participating on the task force, but they've just finished up, a few of them, the 72-hour training that we require. So they're very eager and engaged to get out there and help us spread the word and educate the community. So we're very excited that you have brought us all together, and we will be able to move forward in a positive way.
Well, again, I want to thank you both for all that you do on behalf of Harrisburg. We appreciate the efforts that the Y makes to make our community better. And I can't think of a greater way to have kicked off our initial conversation here at Word in the Burg. Thank you to Tina Nixon. Thank you to Marianne Havlicek. And we want to, again, tell our viewers that if you're interested in suggesting topics for future shows, please email us at wordintheburg@cityofhbg.com. We look forward to a regular rotation of topics that matter to you and serious conversations about solutions, how we can all work together to make Harrisburg and the region a better and safer place. Please remember that April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. consider participating on the 24th in Denim Day, please visit the WISE website where you can find additional information on all that we talked about here today. Thanks again to both of you. Thanks again to you watching at home. This has been Word in the Burg.